has been helping residents in our community with open enrollment for years, and he's always so faithful and gracious to come and share. So without further ado, here's Don.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. Is this on? Are we good with this? All right. And so, good morning, everyone. And as Cindy said, I've been coming out here for at least 10 years, maybe more. And so, these visits are a little bit different than maybe what you anticipate. These aren't sales calls. This is an educational thing. I've done this for 33 years. And in our office, we have some people who have also been around for a real long time and very involved with Medicare and the health insurance industry. And so there's some people out there, I've done some of these in other places. I had someone go to a meeting and take a ton of notes and say, I really needed to know exactly what's going on because my hairdresser does Medicare and I need to tell her what I need to do. And you know, I had a new one just a week or two ago. Someone said, well, I took some notes and my agent is out of town for a couple of weeks and I wanted to let them know exactly what it is that I need to do. If your agent is out of town during open enrollment, you should scratch your head and say, maybe I don't have the right person. And so, but you know, I have been the past president of the National Association of Health Underwriters in North Carolina twice and have served on task forces with both the Center for Medicare Services out of Baltimore as well as the North Carolina Department of Insurance. And so we're very involved. I set up trainings. There's new agents that come through all the time in North Carolina, and we are very instrumental in teaching them about Medicare and making sure that they know the rules. There's a lot of rules with Medicare, and as long as I've done it, there are still days when I scratch my head and say, I didn't know that. And so all of you are here trying to figure out, well, geez, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? And of course, I don't know your individual circumstances, but I can give you a pretty good overview and a picture of Medicare. How many people in here have a Medicare supplement and a separate prescription card? Okay. And so how many people have a Medicare Advantage plan? And so, okay. And there is no right or wrong way to go, but we're seeing a lot of changes in both areas. And so for those of you that have a standalone prescription card, because of recent changes over the last 2 years, there used to be about 24, 25, 26 plans that we could pick from. Now there's 12. And so less competition generally is never a good thing. And so just to give you a little bit of an idea, some of you may not even realize, I did it once here. We had a meeting a long time ago. It was upstairs, and there was probably 80 people in the room. And I said, how many of you have a Medicare Advantage? And 3/4 of the people raised their hand. I said, how many of you have a Medicare supplement? And 3/4 of the people raised their hand. If you do the math, it doesn't quite work out. And so a lot of people don't even realize what they have. So in a nutshell, everybody on Medicare has 2 avenues they can take. And it isn't right and wrong, it's 2 different avenues. And so one avenue is you get a Medicare supplement. You pay more money every month. Based on your age and based on the plan, they're anywhere from $200 to $400 a month more. And so when I say more, you're all paying Uncle Sam. Some of you don't realize it because it comes out of your Social Security check, but you're all paying Uncle Sam for the privilege of being on Medicare. The base is $185. But if your earnings have been higher in the past, there are people that are paying $600 a month just to be on Medicare. So beyond that, those are the 2 avenues. Your red, white, and blue card has holes in it. If you didn't have any insurance above the red, white, and blue card, And almost 10% of Americans have only the red, white, and blue card, mostly because they don't know any better. No one's ever really taught them. That red, white, and blue card, the holes are these. You go to the hospital, it's a $1,676 deductible per 60 days, not per year. Part B has an annual deductible of only $257. That sounds great. And then you pay 20%. And that lulls people to sleep because they say, well, 20%. I go to the doctor, they charge $200, I pay 20%, I can handle that, $40. Or, you know, if I have a x-ray, blood work, 20%, that's nothing. Okay, 20% of an MRI, though, will start affecting your holiday fund. 20% of outpatient chemotherapy or radiation will bankrupt some people. And so for that reason, you get insurance. And that's the two avenues. Pay up front with a Medicare supplement and a separate prescription card, or get a Medicare Advantage plan, which generally range between $0 and $50 a month, and they have all three components included, from hospital coverage to doctor to pharmacy, all in one. And one of the toughest challenges that I've had in my 33 years is overcoming misinformation. And I have people who say to me, they sit in my office, I will never have a Medicare Advantage plan because I don't get the same coverage as a Medicare supplement. That's nonsense. That's not true. Those of you that have a Medicare supplement, many cases it's because when you turn 65, someone taught you that and didn't teach you the other, and you really, in some cases, don't know there's options. And some people that are on Med Advantage plans shouldn't be on them. They should be on Med Sups. In all, the Kaiser Foundation, very respected organization, did a study of 5,000 Medicare recipients over 3 years, and they said that 78% of the people are better off with a Medicare Advantage plan. 22% should be on a Medicare supplement. That's actually very accurate. So I quote that because in our experience, that's accurate. Not everyone should be this direction, not everyone should be the other direction. There's a lot of people that do what I do. Unfortunately, they don't put as much effort into it, and they just direct everybody in one area because they're somewhat lazy. Everyone's needs are different. And so if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, it's okay to question it because maybe you shouldn't be. If you're on a Medicare supplement, it's okay to question it because maybe you shouldn't be. Bottom line is, there are advantages and disadvantages of both. And I've gotten into that more in depth in some of my other meetings I've done here over the years. What I wanted to focus on today, though, is that there's an awful lot of changes that have been going on in Medicare. The last 2 years have had more changes than I've ever seen in the entire 33 years I've done this. Why? Why so many changes? Well, the biggest impetus behind the changes is the cost of medications. So, how many of you remember the famed donut hole? You all know it's gone, right? Because I've done some talks and they've said, oh, I didn't realize. Well, it's gone. That's the good news. The bad news is when we waved a wand and said no more donut hole, we never figured out who was going to pay for it. And so under the old system, which wasn't necessarily a good system, you basically paid about $2,000 out of pocket. You got to a donut hole. You were responsible for about $3,000 more, in some cases less. But when you got to around $5,000, you were completely done. That wasn't a great system, and it was complicated, which made it a little worse. So beginning January this year, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 went into effect January of this year, and it said, okay, no more donut hole. When you hit $2,000 with medicines, you're done. And of course, everybody's high-fiving each other, and Washington, lots of pictures, and the president signing the bill, and Way to go. Yeah, who's paying for it? Oh, I guess we should have thought of that. And so when you were between 2,000 and 5,000, what happened? You paid 25% of the cost of the medication, if you recall. Now, at one time, prior to 2011, you paid 100% of the cost of the medication. So President Obama actually negotiated a deal with the pharmaceutical industry and got that lowered. So you were paying 25%. Who paid the other 75%? Mostly the pharmaceutical industry, through this agreement that was made in 2011. So what they did was, the president at the time said, hey, look, you guys have made your money. So once they've reached this plateau, you need to lower the price of the med 75% and have them pay 25%. They weren't happy about it, but they did it. So they had a little bit of skin in the game, and they had a discount. And so in any event, when we changed the rules and said, okay, no more donut hole, the pharmaceutical industry wasn't held accountable whatsoever. And so they got a free check. They can write the check and charge you what they want. The insurance companies were said, you can't charge a dime over $2,000. So, as you know, the cost of medications in some cases is pretty expensive to begin with. And now the insurance companies have been told that that $3,000 is on you, which, incidentally, isn't really fair. And I don't necessarily have warm feelings for insurance companies. Over the years, I've seen them do things that I didn't appreciate, but they really got stuck on this. And so what's happened is they've said, look, if in fact we have to absorb that, then we're going to have to make it up. Insurance companies aren't going to say, oh, well, tell you what, we're just going to start losing money now. What happens? They said, well, if we're going to get stuck here, we're going to stick everybody else over here. So when you go to the doctor, you pay more. You go to the hospital, you pay more. For the very first time this year, we saw deductibles on name brand prescriptions, and not flat copays on tier 3, but percentages. First time this year. Next year, it's worse. And so the insurance companies are having to fight back. How are we going to be able to compensate for getting stuck with these extra prescriptions? The double whammy is this. The use of weight loss medications has gone up 600% in the last 5 years. 600%. So those average $600-700 a month. The insurance companies are getting stuck. If you go and you watch TV tonight, just tonight, take a look, pay attention. Skyrizi, Eliquis, Jardiance, they're going to be advertising. Some of those meds are over $1,000 a month. And the insurance companies are having to assume 100% over $2,000. So, what we've called it is the great benefit shift. We didn't actually solve a problem. And whether you're running a household, a business, or a country, solving a problem by creating 3 others is never a good idea. And it's what we've done. And so we've caused other problems. We've shifted the costs. And the pharmaceutical industry thinks this is great because, and if you have stock in pharmaceutical companies, you're delighted. They got a Christmas gift, but unfortunately, you guys are paying the price. So as an example, this year, beginning January of this year, if you had one of the major carriers, second largest insurance company, Medicare company in the country, your max out of pocket last year was $3,900. This year it's $6,750. Now, they didn't advertise that because that wasn't something to brag about. And many people that we talk to that aren't our clients, because we actually educate our clients on this stuff, they had no idea until they got sick this year and had to fork out $6,750. There's another company that this year, their max out of pocket is $4,150, And they realized, uh-oh, we didn't do enough adjusting, so next year it's $5,900. Many of you that have Medicare Advantage plans probably love an over-the-counter benefit where you can get some vitamins and supplements and aspirin and Band-Aids and toothpaste. Well, one company said, no more, it's gone. Another company went from $108 to $49. So that's the result of the great benefit shift, where you're no longer paying here for medicines, you're paying over here, and problem hasn't been solved. It's simply been diverted. So these are things that you have to be aware of. Now, I have a handout here that you can, basically it's a summary of what I just said. But when you're taking a look at your plan and you're trying to figure out, am I in the right place, there's several questions that you should always ask. For example, and there are no wrong answers here, but what matters the most to me? Some people come to my office and tell me immediately, customer service, listen, if someone picks up the phone and I'm waiting for 30 minutes and then I'm speaking to someone in a foreign country that doesn't understand English, I'm not going for it. I get it, so I have no problem with that. Some people, that's really high in their priority list. Some people say, I want consistency. I don't have to have the sleekest, nicest model this year. If we look back over 7 or 8 years and I've always been in the top 3 with my plan, that's important to me, consistency. Because you see, some companies, what happens is that their benefits are pretty good and they got a lot of new clients. So the next year they purposely lower their benefits, hoping that no one notices and they don't lose a bunch of clients. But when they do lose a bunch of clients, they add the benefits back, and every year they're like this. We know which companies do that, and honestly, we avoid that company. Very specific company that is known for that. And so a lot of times, people will say to me, hey, listen, just give me, I'm a sharp person, just give me 3 companies next to each other, side by side, email them to me and let me pick. And I do that exactly never. Never. Because on paper, a company can make themselves look really good. But when you're in the hospital and you can't get anyone to react to anything, it's not so good. And the fact that a specialist copay is only $15 here and everyone else is charging $30 doesn't mean you should pick that company. Because that company might not answer the phone, or might not answer the phone inside the United States, or might have a completely different benefit package every single year. And that is true. That is one specific company I'm referring to. And a very famous company. And so I never just say to people, here's 3, pick it. I listen, what are your living, habits, and do you travel a lot, and what pharmacy? Some people say, I will only use Deep River Drug. Okay, you just limited, though, which insurance companies that you can use. And so, but you need to know that. If any of you talk to any of the telemarketers, shame on you. Simply that, shame on you. They're, I'm sure.
How do you stop that?
And so you don't answer. And so you just simply say, no thanks, and that's the end of it. There's nothing good that comes out of a telemarketing call. Nothing good. If our legislators want to do us a favor, and of course the government shut down, and most of you haven't noticed any difference between when it's open and when it's shut down, but nonetheless, if they really wanted to do us a favor, they would ban all the telemarketing calls. That would solve a lot of issues. And so the telemarketers are really preying on people, and they're teasing you by saying, hey, listen, wouldn't you like to have a grocery card? So, and of course people say, well, sure. You shouldn't even get that far into that conversation. Because those telemarketers who are calling from Minnesota, Tampa, Florida, Minnesota, or Minneapolis, there's one in Arizona, they don't have a secret plan that, oh, we can provide this, this, and this. The only plans that they have are the plans that are approved for the zip code and county where you live, the exact same plans that we have. But they don't ask you about your medications and your pharmacy, and if you live in a continuous care community, in which case sometimes you might have people come in to treat you that you don't pick, and they might not be in network. And so they don't ask any of those questions. They just put you on a different plan, make a few dollars, and they're done with you. And the biggest scam this year, in fact, is the grocery card. So this past summer, I did a continuing education program in conjunction with the Department of Insurance, teaching new agents about ways to protect themselves, the agents protecting themselves against fraud, and teaching their clients about fraud. And I was chatting with the #1 attorney for the Department of Insurance, and I said to him, Bobby, what's the #1 complaint that you guys get? And he said, you would think people would be calling saying my prescriptions weren't filled properly, my hospital thing wasn't proved right. He said the #1 complaint for years and years up until 2023 were dental benefits. A free add-on on Medicare Advantage plans was the #1 complaint. I said, okay, up until a few years ago, what is it now? He said, grocery cards. He said, people keep getting all these calls. And he gave me the number, and I really don't remember it. But in the course of a month, it's way over 1,000 calls to the Department of Insurance complaining that they've been had by a grocery card. And so the grocery card, simply put, and it is a scam, how would you like $323 a month groceries? And of course people, yeah, I'd like that. Well, you have to qualify for Medicaid and Medicare. I'm going to guess nobody that lives here is qualifying for Medicaid. And so, but what they don't tell you that. They just get your name, they get your Medicare number and your date of birth, and they put you on a different plan. Then you don't qualify for the grocery card. They call you back and they put you on another plan, they make another commission. And in the meantime, they're not thinking about your best interests whatsoever. And so I'm going back to what I was saying a few minutes ago. What's the most important thing to you, or things? Is it consistency? Is it customer service? Is it, hopefully not, a dental benefit? And I get people who come to my office and say, I'm switching here because they got the best dental. Don't ever do that. If, in fact, you get sick, and eventually we all do, you've got to have a plan that starts with core benefits, that takes care of you if you get sick. If you happen to get a free cleaning or a pair of eyeglasses, that's icing on the cake. But I get a lot of people who will come to me and say, let's pick this because I need some dental work done. Don't do that. Now, remember, all of the insurance companies get the same amount of money with a minor variation. There's a thing called star ratings. 5-star companies get more money than 4-star companies, who get more money than 3-star companies. Not a ton, but a little bit. But when you add it up times 20, 30, 40,000 people that are members of that plan, it does add up for the companies. But if they're all getting basically the same amount of money, and one insurance company says, we're going to give you $5,000 worth of dental. See, that's a hot button, and that's why the Department of Insurance was getting so many complaints. If you read the fine print, $5,000 worth of dental, asterisk, oh, but we don't cover root canals, crowns, and bridges. So how many of you have had $5,000 worth of cleanings and fillings in 1 year? It's a phantom benefit. That's what we call them in our office. We study all the plans. We have 2 offices, and we have a couple of days in August in which we literally sit in a big circle and study the benefits, and that's what we identify as a phantom benefit. It's $5,000, but you can't get $5,000 out of it. But people will buy that plan because they want $5,000 worth of dental, which they can't use. And so these are all reasons, incidentally, too, that you should work with someone who is a professional in the industry and who studies these. And, you know, the lady, the hairdresser, does this on the side to earn a few extra bucks, has no idea of a lot of the intricacies of Medicare. And the agent who is currently on vacation, that still baffles me. Last year during open enrollment, I worked 68 consecutive days, including Saturdays, Sundays, and Thanksgiving Day. And incidentally, the phone rang in our office 3 times that day on Thanksgiving. People called looking to see if we were open because they thought of something. The point is, you really need to make sure you work with professionals and make sure, and a lot of people say, I can do this and I can go to Medicare.gov and I can figure this out. Well, good luck with that. Because again, on paper, it doesn't tell you that they don't pick the phone up inside the United States. And on paper, when it says that our specialist copay is only $15, it doesn't tell you that you have to have a referral, and if you don't, they don't pay the visit. That's a problem. And so there's lots of little things that you wouldn't think of that really matter. When buying a Medicare plan, how many of you would ever think of asking this question? How much is your physical therapy per visit? Well, you'd never think of that. However, that can tell a lot about the culture of a company, because a company that says it's between 15 and say 30, that's reasonable. And what they're thinking is this: if we just dropped $50,000 on a knee replacement, if we charge $50 a visit for physical therapy, you're not going to go. And so you're not going to finish the job with the knee. But if we charge 15, 20, or even 30, 30 is still reasonable, you're going to go, and our $50,000 investment is going to be worth something. We're not going to have to go back in and do it again. But see, some companies, they'll charge $50 because they don't want you to go. And they don't see the big picture, which is they might have to go back in and do it again. So we see those kinds of things, and we know that. There's other things too. You know, we support our clients, and every now and then a client will get into a dilemma that is a real head scratcher. Somebody recently came into my office and said, look, I went to the doctor 6 times in a matter of 6 months, and she takes blood thinners, Coumadin, and you have to keep getting measured to make sure that you're getting the right dosage. And so she went 6 times in a matter of 6 months, maybe 7 months. Not one visit was covered. And so she called, and the insurance company said, ask the provider. We don't have any claims for those. She called the provider, and they said, ask the insurance company. And why won't they pay? And so anyways, she went back and forth, called us up, and one of the things that matters to us is corporate support. Now, many of you maybe never heard of us, and we just kind of chuckle because we don't advertise, but we're one of the largest Medicare brokerages in the Carolinas. And so the insurance companies don't want us to be bummed at them because we've got thousands of clients that we could put somewhere else. So the companies that will assign someone to us, again, you don't see that when I compare 3 companies next to each other, but that corporate support is incredibly important. And so some companies will do that. We prefer those companies. In the case where 6 doctor visits weren't covered, when I was able to, that's probably a Medicare, I was able to call up a corporate person and say, hey, take a look at this, would you? And within a day, she got back to me and said, yeah, here's exactly what happened. They coded it wrong, so therefore we didn't pay it. We called the provider on this date. We spoke with Teresa on this date. We spoke with Pamela on this date. And so she was able to go back to the provider and say, look, you coded it wrong. The reason that you didn't get paid is because you guys messed up. Oops. And then they fixed it and the problem is solved. Point is, we have corporate support. That's something you would never ask. Geez, do they have somebody who's going to fix a problem? So all these things go into decisions when you try to find the right plan for you. And so there are other things that I could get into, but I'm going to be very careful with my time. So I just spoke for 30 minutes nonstop. So now it's time for you to ask some questions. And incidentally, I'm delighted to do these because my chocolate chip cookies are here. And so more cookies the more I talk, less cookies the quicker I leave. So yeah, you had a question.
Yes, I need one of these phantom benefits. Is it possible that there are any insurance companies that pay for dental implants?
No, that's a great question. So the question is, are implants covered? And the answer is, before the great shift in benefits in which the insurance companies are getting zapped with the prescriptions, there were a couple companies that did in fact pay for implants. Now, none. None. Beginning this year. The last one went away the end of last year. And so
How about, I don't know what I am. I'm retired military and I use TRICARE for life.
Yeah.
Is that a supplemental policy?
yeah, no, TRICARE is a great program. Now, you have to have both parts A and B in order to take full advantage. You should have a Medicare Advantage plan without a prescription card, which will cost you nothing, but it will give you added benefits. And the reason is without a prescription card, because most of you have one that has a prescription card. Your TRICARE for Life prescription benefits are better than the prescription benefits on a Med Advantage plan. So you get an MA only plan, no prescriptions.
Correct.
You'll get extra benefits at no cost, and it won't mess up your prescription benefits with TRICARE.
But I can't get vision and I can't get dental.
You can.
I can.
See, the Medicare Advantage plan will give you some dental and vision. They won't give you prescriptions, but you have to get the right plan.
Okay, I'll talk to you later then.
And so, okay, there was another question here.
When you, during open enrollment, if you want to change from one carrier to another, do you go through underwriting?
No, that's a good question. And so here's an interesting thing. I'm going to give you a long answer because you can learn something here. Medicare supplement, the first payer is the government. The second payer that fills the gaps is your Medicare supplement. So a Med Advantage plan is a private insurance company subcontracted by the government to manage your Medicare. Which do you suppose the government prefers? This one, they're directly involved in their payers. This one, they're subcontracting it and putting it in someone else's lap. So, logic would say, and incidentally, originally, when Med Advantage plans were introduced, big argument in Washington. Why are we doing this? Why are we paying an insurance company to take care of something we can do? And the argument was because they can do it better. Well, 23 years later, they do it way better. And so the jury, there's no more debate in Washington. So to encourage people to take Medicare Advantage plans, there's 3 safety nets that the government insists on. All Medicare Advantage plans have to follow these rules or they can't play. One is, doesn't matter if you're 65, 85, or 105. If the premium is $19 or the premium is 0, it's 0 for everyone. No age discrimination. Secondly, if you travel, there's never a network. So if your emergency room benefits $140 at High Point Regional or Moses Cone, and you're in Atlanta or Dallas or San Francisco, and you slip and you think you broke your ankle, it's $130 or $40 wherever you're going, even in a foreign country. The third one, to address that question, is this. When you switch plans, the government has said, look, every fall, we're in the middle of it right now, you can switch plans with no questions asked, no pre-existing conditions. Why do they do that? Because it puts pressure on insurance companies to perform. So if your insurance company decides not to answer the phone or to flip all the calls over to Pakistan, if you're not happy, you can switch. Even if you're in the middle of kidney dialysis, the new company on January 1st, they have to take you, and your kidney dialysis is paid as if you never had a switch. So that puts pressure on insurance companies knowing that you can walk. And there's nothing that they can do, so except take care of you so that you don't walk. So you can switch, and there's no negative repercussions whatsoever. Yeah.
One other question. If you have, let's say, Blue Cross Virginia, and you move to North Carolina,
Yeah.
do you have to fall under the North Carolina Blue Cross network?
Well, you should. And the reason is because of networks. If you have Blue Cross of Virginia, the network is going to be native to the city and the area where you were. So everybody here is going to be out of network. Now, if you have a PPO and it still has out-of-network benefits, you're covered, but at a higher price. So it's in your best interest to get a plan for the zip code where you're at so that your network benefits are much better. So, okay.
I'm coming, Tom.
I'm a retired federal employee and have the federal with Aetna.
Yeah.
And I've been confused ever since I've had it. However, I like it because I don't have to pay anything. I've
Yeah.
never paid anything for medical issues, and my wife has had some serious issues. And I don't know if I have a prescription card or not. I have a silver sneakers card, whatever that is. But I don't think that's
Well,
what
you don't need that because you have exercise benefits here.
Yeah.
Silver
right,
Sneakers is a gym program.
right.
Yeah, but you do have a prescription card.
But yeah, but my other question is, I have Part B, Part A, and Part B.
Right.
And I fill out a form, and I am reimbursed for a lot of the cost of my Part B. So that reduces my annual premium.
Right.
What is that all about? And is that a good idea, or should I try something else?
No, that's a good idea. Now, generally, the Federal Employee Health Benefit Program is a good program. And so we do have people, because sometimes the network can be limited, and so we do have people that will get a Medicare Advantage plan at no cost in addition to that, because as long as you have A and B, you can get a Medicare Advantage. And you know, that can coordinate and give you some extra benefits. So, does that
Okay.
answer your question?
Well, kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of?
But I'll make an appointment with you. I'd like to just hear you,
Yeah.
sit down with you and let you look at what's available from Aetna, or if I'm in the right place. That's my question.
Yeah.
Because they had two different plans, and I selected the Aetna Direct plan.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
And so I'm not able to get into the specifics of plans here,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, and if any of you want to make an appointment, we're already in the middle of the open enrollment season. I'm not the only person in the office. And so Pamela, who used to work for the Department of Insurance, is very well versed and very educated, very polite. Anna has been with me for 11 years and is also very involved. They're two of the sharpest people out there. And one of the things I kid some of my colleagues about is the weakest person in our office is better than the best person in anyone else's office. And so, and really the best agents out there that I know are in our Clemens or our High Point office. We really are pretty tough on our agents, and they're pretty well trained. So if you can get an appointment with one of them, and in the future, call in August or September to get an appointment, because I'm booked right now. I had to shift things to come here today. I'm booked for the next couple of weeks solid, unless I see you at 8:30 in the morning or at 5:30 or 6 at night. And so, but we have people who can still fit you in somewhere. Okay, was there any other questions here?
There's one.
Information up there?
Yes, he does.
My concern is, for example, we use the clinic and the physicians
Yeah.
and here is, what happens when we change about people that are in network and out of network that are our suppliers?
Yeah, and so one of the things, and I have, I don't know, 30 or 40 people here that are clients in River Landing. So we're very careful with making sure that, formerly it was Michael Piazza and Holly Turbeville, and, we're careful to make sure that those people are in the network. But we're also we very much try to focus on getting you a PPO so that if, in fact, you have to go out of the network, you still have benefits. And so some of the plans that are available out there are HMOs. They're good plans, but you have to use the network. And every now and then, somebody here, if you need speech pathology after a stroke, it used to be the former group that came in, I can't remember their name, but they were in South Carolina. So we had to be careful that they were in the network or that you had out-of-network benefits. So we're aware of that, and we'll make sure that there's some flexibility. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm coming.
You got to get roller skates.
I know. That would be fun. That would be fun.
At one time, it may still be true, if you have a supplement plan and got out of it, that you couldn't go back into that, or at least that was my understanding.
Yeah.
Is that still the case?
Yes and no. And I'm not a politician, so
No.
saying yes and no is common for them. But there's a couple things that you should know. And I mentioned earlier, one of the toughest things that we do is overcoming misinformation. And a Medicare supplement, as you get older, is less and less attractive. Some people will say to me, hey, I'm going to get a med sup now when I turn 65 because 20 years from now, I'm going to be really happy I have one. Well, not the case. So what if the max out-of-pocket for your Medicare Advantage plan is $4,500, which for good plans right now, that's pretty common. $4,500, if everything goes haywire with your health, the max out-of-pocket is $4,500 in copays. But on your med sup, you're paying $350 a month, and you're paying another $100 for your prescription card. You're paying more in premiums, whether you use it or not, than you would the max out-of-pocket on your Med Advantage plan. So you get to a point with a Medicare supplement that you're paying more in premiums than you're possibly going to get out of it. So it's rare that people in their mid-70s and beyond would ever go back to a Medicare supplement. Very rare, because it doesn't make financial sense. Where it makes sense is when you're 65 and the premium's $135, that's very attractive. But when it starts getting up there, we had someone from here come to our office, I guess last year. His daughter drug him into the office. He didn't want to go. And he sat there in my office and just glared at me. And his Mutual of Omaha insurance plan was $397, and his prescription card was $123. And he said, I'm educated, I made these choices, and I know what I'm doing. And his daughter said, no, we're switching. She's paying all the bills, and she said, we're wasting. I mean, he's paying $500 a month, $6,000 a year. We put him on a Med Advantage plan where the worst case scenario was $4,000 some odd dollars. Even if everything went kerplooey, he won. And so, to answer your question, it's rare that you would want to go back to a Medicare supplement. However, there is one company in North Carolina that says if you'll come with us and try us, if you want to go back to a Medicare supplement, we'll let you do it with no questions asked. That's a very nice, very good provision that one company offers. So, okay.
Is it true that one of the other considerations, maybe with an HMO, in addition to difficulty of getting out of network or just not allowing, is that you coordinate all your care through your PCP? Would that include also specialist references within your net care that the PCP sort of looks that over and everything?
Yeah, that's a good question, John. Here's the thing. Right now, there's only one company that is requiring referrals from your primary care to the specialist. And that company just restarted doing that this year. Part of it is to try to save a few dollars because of the prescription costs. But there's actually only one company. The rest of the companies, you can go straight to, if you know you have a skin issue, you can call the dermatologist and make the appointment, and it's not a problem whatsoever. So we asked the executives of the one company that's re-implementing the referral program why, and they said, well, we're protecting, and incidentally, I'll preface it with, this is BS. We're protecting our specialist time because some people really don't need a dermatologist, as an example. They could go to their primary care, and they're just wasting the time of the dermatologist. And so I said, oh, that's really thoughtful of you. And so I think most of you know that if it's a problem that needs a specialist, you call a specialist. If it's a little something, you can mention it to your primary care doctor. But that was the excuse we got from the company and why they're doing it. The reason they're doing it is they think that if they make it harder, some people will skip the specialist. So that's what it's all about. Anyways, okay. Any other questions? No? I've left you all speechless. Okay. And so, and again, I came out here just wanting to teach a little bit and answer some questions and give you some guidance because we've had a great relationship here for a long time. And we have some calendars. Those of you that are clients know about this. These are awesome, if I may say so. We develop these calendars every single year. And so one of our guys in Winston coordinated it. Every year we have a different theme, and you can't buy that at the Dollar General or at Target. And we put it together, and we mailed out 8,000 of them a few weeks ago. And so by all means, take one. There's some pill boxes and some tissues. And then here's a synopsis of what I said with our contact information on the back. And I would encourage you, and I might be able to see you, but it would wind up being 8:30, 5:30, or a Saturday. But Pamela and Anna are sharp. And so you don't lose anything when you go to them.
For those
The first time we meet with people, we really don't like to do it on the phone. We do have one person, Jacob, who's a U.S. Vet, and he's been with us about 3 years. He sometimes will go out of the office, but we like to do the first time around in person. We really try to get a feel for the person, and we really try to ask a lot of questions. And if it's in our office and it turns out this company is better, we can give you their brochure because we have it right here. When we travel, we can't take, 18 different brochures and stuff, so we're at a disadvantage.
Well, I was with you 2 weeks ago, so it's.
Right.
But I wanted to know if there's anything different. Thank you.
Not in 2 weeks. And so, okay, is there anything else I can answer for you?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much, Don. That was awesome.